Hello and welcome to another NDX NASDAQ update. This is a video in which we want to label the chart together because I haven't looked at this chart for I think a couple of weeks or so, maybe even a little longer, 2 to 3 weeks. But I keep my NQ NASDAQ futures chart always very much up to date on a daily basis. The NDX chart, I use that mainly for the larger time frame outlook, bigger picture, okay? But obviously, things need to be adjusted here with these upside extensions. We want to tidy it up a little bit. And so I thought, instead of doing this in isolation, I will take you through the wave count here to the upside in detail, how it's being built, and what I want to change here. So what you see at the moment, I mean, so far the idea was on this chart that, maybe the move to the upside here is, an ABC structure, right? So that was sort of the idea. A, B, and then wave C, and then we said, okay, at some point this C wave should be done, and it could even be a wave 1 then of a larger 5-wave move. Then we get a wave 2 to the downside, a third wave, fourth wave, fifth wave. Why am I looking for an ABC structure? Because this initial move up is clearly a 3-wave move to the upside. Very clearly. So I think on the NDX chart here, we have to work either with a diagonal pattern or an ABC structure. However, this initial move was in 3 waves. So that kept us quite limited because the move up is not impulsive. So, but you see, I considered this as an A wave, a B wave, and then a long C wave. But I think that is not viable anymore with latest price data that has come in. So while I haven't confirmed the top anywhere, I think we just need to change the wave structure also to have it in line with my NQ NASDAQ futures chart. And I want to share with you what we're going to do. So we still keep it as an ABC structure, I think. So let me remove all this first. And then this will all should become clearer along the way. So key is to understand that we are probably quite close to really a major top. But I think things are going to change here on this chart a bit. So let's first start with the concept of an ABC structure, because it's entirely possible that we form here a major top straight away, potentially simply as an ABC structure. Yeah, that is possible because the larger time frame move could also be considered a large ending diagonal. Hold on. So on the NDX chart, while I have labeled this here as an impulse, overall from the 2022 low, this can very, very easily be classed as a diagonal pattern, in a slightly different wave structure. So I need to reflect that in the micro count from the April low. My view is on the futures chart, it even looks even more like a diagonal pattern. On the NDX chart, I can call it an impulse. But if it's an impulse, then this 5th wave needs to be a 5-wave move. If it's a diagonal, this move up needs to be a 3-wave move. And that makes it a little bit more complex on the NDX chart. But I need to consider both because we want to do it correctly, right? So I think what we want to talk about here now is, first of all, let's label an ABC structure to the upside. How would that actually play out? Because what you will see is it doesn't really matter so much in the short term. So what I want to do is, with all this rally to the upside, which has been so stretched and without really clear pullbacks along the way, I really can't justify to call this an A, B, and then a very, very long C wave. That doesn't make any sense anymore. Yeah, it made sense to a certain point, but now it's just too high. So I think, it's technically still valid, but it would go to the end of the line from when we talk about probable scenarios. Still valid, so that wave count wasn't not invalidated, but I still would like to explore the idea that this is simply an A wave and a B wave and a C wave. Now, what I will put the C wave here though. And I'll make that the white scenario. So let's say in the white scenario, we're tracking the ABC structure to the upside. And then this was an ABC. And this is the larger A, B, C. So basically, we had, and this is the problem on this chart, we had an extremely shallow B wave, which makes it tricky to track. But when we talk about Fibonacci extensions, it actually reached, you could say, standard targets. Yeah, the blue zone is normally where you would expect a C wave to finish. But there was never that deep B wave pullback along the way, so I could say, yeah, that's clearly the B wave. So that made the move up, to track that move up, really, really difficult. Again, we weren't bearish along the way, but when you're dealing with a weak B wave like that, it's really difficult to track it. So yeah, anyway, this is a wave count that we can go with right now. And then when we talk about the direct move to the upside here in the C wave, I can say that we're now looking at a C wave, 5-wave move, right? So it makes sense to consider this as the 1-2 setup, and then 3, 4, 5, because I don't see a healthy 4th wave yet. And then in the 3rd wave, obviously, of the C wave, we're looking for 5 waves as well. So it seems like this C wave seems to be an impulse. At least this is one reasonable scenario I think we can track here. 1, 2, and then probably the 3rd in the late stages, 4th, 5th. So I'm tracking this as, I think, a very reasonable scenario here to the upside. That is how I've labeled my NQ chart now as well. Now, obviously, with a chart like that, there's always a potential then, when we're tracking ABC structures, that it just forms a larger ABC structure. I mean, that would be a reasonable alternative. So we say, what if this is a larger top? We get another B and another C. So it can always extend. That would be our orange scenario. Okay, so that would be a pathway to higher prices. This is the scenario that I would track based on the assumption that the larger time frame from the 2023 low is an ending diagonal, because then the 5th wave up is an ABC structure. Okay. What this wave count helps us is to determine the microstructure here. Not microstructure, give us support levels. So if this is an impulse, then the 4th wave, circle 4, should not break below the 50% retracement. So this would be our key support here. So that means at any point now, circle wave 4 could start, $22,526 to $23,077. If we break below it, a deeper pullback might unfold. Maybe already a major top, maybe just a deeper pullback in a B wave. We would then have to look at that, right? But at the moment, we are not even close to that 22,500 level, which is Fibonacci support there for this 4th wave. So that, however, now means we also need to consider the 5-wave move scenario. What if the entire move up is indeed an impulse from the 2022 low, from that move? That's actually how I've labeled it. I don't know why this is shifting all the time, these. Okay. What if this is indeed an impulse? Then in the yellow scenario, that 5th wave up should actually be a 5-wave move as well. And the only way I can label this then from an Elliott Wave point of view is to consider the entire move up an ending diagonal. And that because the move up initially is a 3-wave move. So the way to do that is to say this is wave 1. I'm going to change the color in a minute. Oh, hold on, let's do that first. Oh, it's confusing. This was wave 2. We're now likely in the late stages of wave 3. We're going to tidy that up in a minute, and then we would probably move up sort of like this. So you see the difference is probably rather minor. But that means we can grind higher without any real deep pullbacks. So in this scenario as well, I would have to track the 3rd wave as an ABC structure, because wave 1 is an ABC. So I would also go with AB and then the C wave to the upside here in the yellow scenario. So that means then there would be a 4th wave at some point and a 5th wave. This gives me an additional layer of support. So if we break upper micro support, we could still look for support for yellow wave 4, which would be deeper, lower, naturally, because we're dealing with a diagonal pattern. So technically speaking, in this scenario, all that means is we will have another support zone to watch, which would be here, between 19,665 to 21,990. Now, sometimes people misunderstand Elliott Wave. They think Elliott Wave is really it tells us exactly what will happen. That's not the case. The labels are tools for us to identify support areas that we can use and where the price should ideally react. Now, what you see here, we have an upper support, which hasn't even been reached. But if we break below it, we can start to focus on this scenario, yellow wave 4, because this is the next support zone that will come into focus then. So this is how I would see it at the moment. I hope that helped to explain the structure. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.